How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and welcome back to our playthrough of the Decius campaign for Fall from Heaven 2, the high fantasy mod for Civilization 4. Today we're going to be starting the fourth and final scenario in the Decius campaign. It's called Against the Grey, and the description is as follows. Decius takes his battle to the Sidar, requires the successful completion of the Wages of Sin scenario, which you're probably familiar with, as I've spent the last couple of months actually finishing that scenario. So we're moving on to the next one. We unlocked Against the Grey, and that's what we're going to be playing next. So once again, we are Decius of the Calabim. When it comes to the difficulty, I think last time I played it on at least Monarch difficulty. Since I believe the difficulty of these missions scales up as I move into the campaign more, and given the fact that Fall from Heaven 2 is not as cut and dry, I guess you could say, as standard vanilla Civilization 4, I think we're going to be sticking with Monarch. I might be tempted to do Emperor. It's a good question. See, the thing is, I would like to be able to sort of know that I could actually finish and win this scenario, because it's a good question. I think we'll stick with Monarch. The next scenario, the next campaign that I play, though, I think we'll be stepping it up to Emperor for that one. So, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to what I would find enjoyable, and not being able to make any mistakes on those really higher difficulties is not something that I enjoy. I want to be able to make some mistakes and not have to lose out on 10 hours of gameplay because of it or so. So here we go. Against the Grey. We have a little bit of an introduction here. After the third group of hunters went missing, Decius started to get upset. The trip south from the lands he had conquered around Tempest Moor was rife with danger, as mountain passes ended in steep drops as often as not, and even the gentle slopes led down into mist-filled valleys with treacherous bogs and swamplands. They were easy prey at night. Even the night watch could be found slain in the morning. He began to wish that his whole group had taken the sea route again, but he hadn't wanted to risk Over-Council or Sidar forces coming in from the north and pinching them against the main Sidar army. Even the Savalfar hunters who guided them, experts at avoiding detection, would find some among their numbers poached. Then one morning they awoke to find a whole company of blood pets dead. Decius ground his teeth as the bit of sun that came back through the thick clouds illuminated the grisly scene. "Commander, may we speak?" The voice came from above as the speaker slowly descended. A succubus, sent with word of Osgabala's offer, and to assist Decius. It was less an offer and more of a plea. Were he to return with the blade that slew Athene of the Elohim, he would name his price from the old the sorceress. It was too tempting an offer for him to pass up, not to mention the value he would get from using these Sidar as his personal spies, should he subdue them. But just finding them was proving to a most difficult quest. "Yes, what is it?" Decius averted his eyes from her sharply, and nude form not out of modesty, but because he didn't want to be reminded of the moment another woman whose company he had recently kept, the druid Talia Gosum. "You are a wise commander, but you are still blind to some of the options open to you. Why do you grieve the loss of these troops?" "I'm not in the mood for a games, creature. What is your suggestion?" "They did not serve you willingly in life. Why let them take to death against your wishes? We can animate these bodies and send them ahead. Let the Sidar ghosts strike with their poisoned blades against hearts no longer beating." "Yes, we'll make them strike twice for every kill. Furthermore, their assassins have been aiming for our scouts and workers. or other weaker troops. Let us petition Isus to deceive their eyes, for Agares to grant us allies more at home in the darkness than our foes are. To Arion for strength to fight frenzied, even when poisoned and dying, and most importantly, to Creridewin. Oh my god, I'm terrible at this. For the secret knowledge the great seer holds. I don't like seeking the help of gods. They usually take more than they give. Our gods will not collect on their debt for some time, Decius. Their goals align with yours, and they do not seek to pull your strings, as you already follow their path. Their price is cheaper than losing your head to an assassin's blade. Decius stared at the demon for a moment. Very well. What is needed? The ritual was prepared. Decius's blood was spilt onto the fires, and he recited the prayers. In the dancing flames, the valley was illuminated, showing the path to take to the enemy's gates. Okay. I guess we're finally ready to get started. Empyrean has been founded in a distant land, and Van Gosem has converted to Empyrean. So apparently, even after all that effort, we still have not defeated Van Gosem. I think we defeated him twice now, and he still is with us at one point or another. So let's see what we have here. We have the Night Watch. I don't believe there's any reason for them to be hidden nationality anymore. Now we've got a scout here, a worker, and some supplies to build our first building. It's a good question. Like, where should I send the scout first? I think we'll scout up on top of this hill here. So there's a mountain range here. Not a very pretty one. We have resources on. Not a whole lot of resources around this starting area, I have to say. So here is our succubus. What exactly can she do? Can use enemy roads, of course. 0 to 1 first strikes. Reduced chance to defend the stack. Immune to fear. Burning sand, strength. Broken land, strength. So a lot of strengths that align with our choice to be of the evil alignment. That would work. Immune to death damage. And it's not a whole lot of stuff. Immune to poison damage and immune to unholy damage. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if we can find a use for those units. Because at the moment, I really don't see how useful they're going to be. I'm not exactly sure what I'd be going up against where they'd prove to have a significant advantage over just going the regular route of getting our vampires if we can. If we look at what's available to research at the moment, I'm just taking a look here to see feudalism, which we need for vampires, has not been researched yet. And when it comes to religions, we would have to research corruption of the spirit to actually found the Ashen Veil. So we don't really start out with any of our civilization's real strengths here. We're going to have to actually research our way into that. So the interesting question is, should we settle this turn or do a little bit more exploring before I actually commit to this area? Oh, what do you know? Here's a divided soul. A barbarian. He's basically a scout. So he has the assassin, art unit, art asset, and the wolf. Much like a scout there. Yeah, but there are just really not a whole lot of resources around here. The gold would be very strong. Yeah, anytime you have gold available to you, I think it is a generally good idea to go with it. And we could grab the gold and the pig here in one city. Granted, it would require us to actually wait until our borders expand. But gold is a huge asset when it comes to being able to research. So I'm very tempted to do that. Granted, we could start another city over there, because it is 2 spaces away. But I'm not sure how many, can we build additional cities in this game? We also start with some units over here on this side. I believe it's split by a mountain range, if I'm not mistaken there. That's what it looks like. I think I did play this mission once before, but it's been a while. So, on this side, I think maybe we'll settle on this front first. But I would like to see like sort of what land is available over here as well before I commit to anything. We have a couple of resources here. It's certainly nice. We have an adept, and we also start with a vampire. But I don't think we can't upgrade our Morari to it because we don't have feudalism yet. In terms of the land, this stuff is not all that productive, but we could establish a nice port here. We wouldn't be able to get that fish. Even if we settled as closely as possible to it, it still would be outside the working borders of our city. Although we could capture it later with culture, I suppose. When it comes to actually settling, I'm tempted to move one down. Now, the downside to this is that I would no longer have a coastal city. But on the upside of it, for one thing, we'd be surrounded on 3 sides by a river, which increases our defense of that city by 25% for units attacking across it. We would also be able to claim the elephant resource within our borders, although I'm not sure how useful ivory is in Fall from Heaven 2. I don't think I've actually used it before, and I believe the only units that can use it are the only mounted units that actually are visually portrayed as elephants or the mammoths, and you have to upgrade to those. So I don't think the elephant or the ivory would be all that useful. The other benefit to moving down here would be the fact that we'd be able to work the wine resource within these borders. The downside is that we would lose the marble in the process. So the question is like, which is more important to us in the short term, marble or wine? I think the benefits of just being a coastal city sort of outweigh the downsides here. So I think we'll stick here. Another big question is, where should our capital be? Should it be in this area? Or should it be over here? Like, what would be more powerful? I think in general, the idea is that the area that you're planning on having more cities clustered around would be the best place to have the capital because of reduced maintenance costs. So I'm thinking over here. I think I have a lot more land to expand in than here. I mean, there is some land here, but it looks a little bit less. So we will found this city secondly. I think we're just going to give it a couple of turns to sort of do some scouting here and see what we can find. I probably should keep this adept. What should we promote for? She can't summon anything at the moment. Probably just combat one. Have the settler skip for a turn. I'm really tempted to go for the gold because, like, as you can see, if I build a mine on here, that's an additional 6 gold, which can get us off to a pretty strong start, I think, even if we lose out 2 turns. And we will also have the pig over here for food growth, obviously. There's plenty of grass. Well, there are 2 grassland tiles. We could build farms on those. Overall, I think this could be a very strong city, but, well, there are 3 grassland tiles. If I build a city here, we won't have any floodplains, granted, but there's a lot of fertile land here, a lot of productive land, and we get the pig resource and the gold resource right away. And I think that's worth any potential risk we might incur by wasting 2 turns to actually move there. We also start with the worker over here. Apparently we did not start with a worker on this side of the map, which means we'll have to build one. And I think the first thing, well, we won't be able to build our... Yeah, that's another great reason for building the capital here. Our borders will expand a lot faster, and we'll have access to the gold and the pigs sooner than if we built this as the second city. Another downside, though, is the fact that we lose out on these 3 tiles of the fat cross for cities. So that will reduce the overall potential for our city slightly, but I don't think it's going to be a huge deal, especially given the fact that I've had issues with our happiness in our cities in the past. We start with a pyro zombie. I'm not exactly sure we can build more of these. They supposedly explode when they die. It's an interesting sort of hand grenade type of unit. We also have an imp here. I don't think we've had one of these before. They have a lot of resistance to fire damage, but they're rather weak to holy damage. I should look up some of these things. So we're interested in the imp and the succubus especially, to see if they have anything special that they bring to the table that really no other unit could do. So here's the imp. Oh wait, it's considered to be an adept. It says adepts have the ability to learn spell spheres when they level up, giving them access to a wide variety of spells. This is a unique unit for the Infernal, and it replaces the Adept. So yeah, basically an Imp is a slightly modified Adept. And I'm just curious if the Succubus is a similar situation where she would replace a more standardized unit. Why can't I find it? Here we go. No, actually, the Succubus has a chance of appearing in Shiam cities with a planar gate and public bath buildings. But yeah, they start with +2 unholy combat, but really nothing else. So overall, I don't think this is going to be a game changer of a unit. Obviously, my vampires are of pretty similar strength. I think this is going to be 1 strength higher, 6 strength by default instead of 5. But don't really see that being a game changer. But we do have Decius here. So the Succubus, I think, is our strongest unit at the moment. I want to lead my strongest unit with Decius. Let's show the individual units. Oh, do they show strength when I do this? I see 4 strength, 3 strength, 6 strength, 5. Yeah, the vampires are 5 strength by default. 4 strength, 4. Night Watch is 5. Longbow is 5. Archer's 3. Scout 2. Hunter 4. Yeah. So we'll be leading the Succubus with Decius. Let's see here. Now we can cast that. Oh, wait. The Succubus actually starts with the ability to cast 2 spells. The Charm Person spell adds the Charmed promotion to units within range. We'll have to check that out later. And I can also cast Inspiration in the city, which inspires the people of the city it is cast in for +2 research and +1 Great Sage, Great Profit Point, GPP. I'm not exactly sure. I imagine that's not Great Person Point. There we go. I don't know. I thought Profit immediately. It's Great Person Point. So maybe she isn't the best to lead with. Like, she sounds like she would actually be more effective in the early game, being used in the city for the additional science research that she would provide. So here we have the Imp. Pretty much the same promotions that we saw with our Adept. So we're not really going to do anything else with that. It'll be interesting to see if the Barbarian attacks my longbow. And they didn't. Let's see here. Freya the Mad has created something in a faraway land, a great bard. And Van Gossam is adopting different civics, which we should probably do as well, given the fact that since we don't have any cities built at the moment, this will prevent our treasury from being drained due to unit maintenance costs, as well as give us an opportunity here to actually switch civics at no personal cost to research, for example. Because I don't think we will want to keep the current civics that we have, like despotism. It's not useful. Not when we have other options. And the same thing with tribalism. It does nothing. So we'll probably go under council. I don't see any reason not to. Maybe additional, what do they call it? Anarchy time. Foreign trade. I don't think this will be useful. We don't appear to have any allies at the moment. Conquest. Additional experience, but we could do additional experience with apprenticeship. And besides, if we adopt conquest, the problem with that usually is the fact that it really discourages us from actively building units because they're produced with food which doesn't allow our cities to grow. So I think we're going to be going with agrarianism, increase that food production from farms, which once again is good. And I should have in the past tried for stronger synergies with the Calabim because they need cities that grow relatively big to take advantage of the extra experience when feeding off those cities with vampires. When it comes to labor, I'm tempted to go with apprenticeship. Slavery could be useful given the fact that we're going to be going for high amounts of food, but the minute we start getting vampires, we'll want to be using that population for feeding our vampires instead of actually hurrying buildings in our, or even units in our cities. And military state, we can draft 3 units per turn. It's interesting because it allows us to spend the gold. But aside from that, I really don't think at the beginning of the game this is going to be all that helpful. I think the ability, or having our new units get +2 experience points, at least until we get vampires, would be more useful. Because once we get vampires, we can feed off the cities for that additional experience. It's a good one. I mean, all of these 3 are good civics in their own right when used correctly. And I know most people probably would go for the slavery civic, but the thing is that in the past, I've been really terrible at remembering to ever use it because it has to be applied quite judiciously. You don't want to use it right away because when you start a new building, it's going to cost double if you hurry that immediately. Some buildings are really expensive and it never makes sense to use it. And yeah, it's a good question. Wow, I need to be able to pull the trigger on one of these. The ability to draft units is an interesting idea, but generally I think that's a worse alternative to actually building them in pretty much any scenario, so that's not a plus for me. The additional military unit production, we have to take into account that if I used apprenticeship, it would actually be 10% less, which makes us up to 25. This would be a 25% difference. And if we don't, I think, like, how soon are we going to start building units? I think we're going to go with slavery because we're going to be going for a lot of food, I think. +1 food from farm. Are we going for a lot of food? I'm not even sure. Where is that civic that allows us to get more food from the farm? I think it's a civic that's locked behind consumption. Oh, sacrificed a week maybe? I know this is a civic that requires Ashen Veil. Yeah. So we won't. Social order, consumption, scholarship. I'm just looking to see if there was a civic that provided us more food than actual agrarianism. Because agrarianism, I guess that's the only one that really does it. So if we go for God King, or if we go for aristocracy, our farms will balance out. But that could actually be a detriment to us. City-states is interesting for the fact that we have a colony basically way over there, that second city. This would hugely reduce our maintenance costs for any cities that we build over there, and it might be necessary. And God King, I think, will actually work against us. It's tempting, though. It would be interesting to see the trade-off. Probably at the beginning of the game, it wouldn't be that great. So, God King versus aristocracy. I think with our gold resource, we'll go for God King because we have a very strong starting city here in mind. Okay, wait. Is nationhood what we want? Yes. All these alternatives are not very good. Wow. That was a lot of deciding. That was took a while to analyze all that. And I'm still not sure I made the best decision. So maybe I should become faster at analyzing that. Did I forget to promote my Night Watch last turn? I don't even know. The interesting thing about the Night Watch is that they seem to be a very defensive unit, but there was just really no situation where you'd ever need a hidden nationality unit to be defensive, which sort of, makes you wonder what's the point of the unit. Because in general, the Night Watch, you'd be somewhat more aggressive with them because they can enter foreign borders without triggering a declaration of war. They can attack without triggering a declaration of war. Why would you ever position them in a defensive way if they have that promotion? So that's the thing I really don't get about the Night Watch. So when it comes to actually promoting them, it's like, what do we do? I think just probably Combat 1 at the end of the day. So looking over here, our second front by the ocean, we have a Frostling Wolf Rider, 2 of them as a matter of fact. We could lose our scout to that, or our hunter. think it's a certain possibility. And there's also a frostling over here. So a lot of barbarian units on this front. We can get our vampire within range by using haste. We can't get him onto the same tile. So there's a possibility that our hunter would be lost because we can't protect it. The Morai, or the Morari, I don't know how to pronounce that. What promotions? At the end of the day, like, I think to start off with, we're not going to be attacking cities or anything like that, so we're just going to go for standard combat. There is some sheep right there. Or there is a sheep resource. Like, technically, that would be the closest we could get to the fish, but we still wouldn't be able to work the tile. So, here's copper. Maybe we should go after the copper, because I don't see any copper over here. Granted, we can do a little bit more exploring yet. Let's promote this scout for additional movement, since he'll probably get killed relatively quickly anyway. Yeah, there are some bears. The bears would probably kill my scout almost immediately. And lions. Oh my. Anyway, as you can see, no copper over here. So this is going to have to be where we get our copper from. And the question is, should we build the city here first, or should we focus on getting the copper first? So now that I understand this, I could put the city probably here in the hill. Seems to be a more defensive position. We have immediate access to the copper, but it'd be interesting to see like what lies beyond that. We would also get the elephant, and providing we can build more cities, we could always build our second city over here where the original one was intended to be. So I'm tempted to go ahead and try for that. I don't think it will hurt. Really? Let's see here. Settler needs to go there. Succubus is skipping one turn. And our supplies are going to be fed into the capital. And our hunter can move over here towards the longbowman. So let's see what happens if our hunter gets killed here with those frostlings. I don't know if we get any free wins on this difficulty level, because by default in Civilization 4, you are guaranteed at least one free win against barbarians, I think. I predict it probably will not turn out too well. And this actually might be a crash. I've never seen it waiting this long for civilizations. Okay, so we're back. I had to do a whole bunch of Jimmy monkeying around to get this to work. It's really stupid, but here's what happened. Apparently, the game can freeze after 2 turns if things just randomly go wrong. Like, I could start up the game and not touch a thing, just run it for 2 turns and it would freeze. So I had to find a version, like a load of this game that the game was actually, or a load of this scenario that the game was actually willing to let me go ahead and play it without freezing up at the second turn. So we've got it. The map is obviously a little bit different because the resources randomly regenerate every time you load up this scenario, like from the start. So as a change, now there's a piece of copper here. We lost our fish up there. If we take a look over here at our home area, we no longer have the pig. We no longer have the gold, but we do have an additional mana resource here. We also have the sheep instead of the pig. Sheep is basically a worse version of a pig, in my opinion, but that's because I'm more growth oriented. I would rather have the additional food than the additional production. Also started the cities on the very first turn because we had the ability to do so since I could stay in place. Another change that I made was actually switching to aristocracy instead of God King, because aristocracy is better synergy from our farms, since we're going to be building a lot of farms with agrarianism, the 1 additional food from farms and the 2 additional commerce from farms. Now granted, with aristocracy, our farms basically are balanced out now, but I figured that we're in such dire straits here when it comes to our research situation. We're losing a lot of money, a lot of gold, I should say, and any additional commerce that we can get in is welcome, even at the expense of food. So that kind of gets you up to date with what we're currently doing. I am also researching corruption of spirit at the moment, since I got a bit of an earlier start this time, and that was simply a preference that I had over researching the ability to get vampires. If we take a look here at the research required, feudalism would allow us to get vampires. But as you can see, it's 1800 research versus the 1056 research that we require to get corruption of spirit. And corruption of spirit is pretty powerful as well, because in addition to getting access to Razir the Fallen, if we're so inclined to build them, we also have access to the ritualists, and the ritualists are pretty good at evening the odds, even against very overpowered enemies, because those ritualists can effectively cut the strength of enemies in half. So that's where we're at the moment. I'm going to be leading my longbowman with Decius this time instead of the succubus, and that's basically because the longbowman, believe it or not, is one of the strongest units that I currently have access to in this scenario at the moment. So let's take out that Wraith. Was that a Wraith? It was a Divided Soul. I'm not even sure what that kind of unit does. I mean, how do you get access to a Divided Soul? I don't know. But here we are. It's a replacement for a Hunter. And it's a Sidar unit. So it seems like Sidar is going to be playing a pretty significant role. We have, like, one of our primary enemies is going to be the Sand Dolphin of Sidar, as well as Van Gossam. So Van Gossam doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. There is actually another more sad account, I guess you could say, of what's been going on here. So I've played through this before. And I wasn't recording it. Of all the things, I lost it because I wasn't recording it. So this has been one of the most tortured episodes that I've found myself recording for Civilization 4 so far. I don't think ever before have I made such a huge blunder or have been required to basically jump through quite as many hoops to get this thing going, to get this show on the road, I guess you could say. So over here, we have our Hunter and our Vampire, 2 Frostling Wolf Riders. We're just going to fortify across this river on top of this hill inside a forest. Very, very defensive. I'm also going to lower the research rate a little bit, just so we're not losing quite as much gold per turn. So already we have a couple of skeletons coming along this way. They could be useful for getting some additional experience for units. So I'm going to pull back a little bit there. And we have our Hunter here. What do we want to do? Well, I'm going to promote the Longbowman for simple strength. And it'll be interesting to see, like, what should we attack these guys? Only 39.7% odds of winning. Maybe we should go to this forest here. I'll skip one more turn. If they don't attack, I'll try attacking them. But our odds when attacking across the river there, not good. I forgot. When I was talking about the river before, earlier, I mentioned this would be a nice location because we were defended on 3 sides for the river. I was thinking the river was the traditional 25% odds of 25% odds, not odds, 25% decrease, increase, how would I put it? 25% defensive bonus to the defender when the attacker is attacking across the river. But actually, in Fall from Heaven 2, it's been boosted to 40%. And we have a slave that we captured thanks to our Civic, believe it or not. So that's pretty good. We can't use it to hurry the worker, but we can use it to start, get a jump start there and actually building a copper mine. So that's what I'm going to do. Promote the Hunter up for a combat 1. And let's see if we can take out the other wolf there. No additional slaves, which is a little bit unfortunate. I was hoping we would get something else out of that, but we didn't. And it looks like both skeletons are on their way over here. So maybe I should actually get my vampire into position. I should not have used that spell first. That was a mistake. How about these lions? 91.7% odds. I guess I'll take that. Yeah, so given the fact that I've played through this like 30 minutes ago, I kind of have a little bit of an idea of what's going to be going on here. So this might not be the most fair playthrough. I can't react to it as much in real time, I guess you could say. But we'll try anyway. 99.9% odds against that skeleton. And 78. Okay, we're going to wait one turn for that other skeleton. And continue building that mine, my dude. Let's promote our adept up. And one of the things that I discovered is that this area here is kind of one big secure area, which means that we're going to try to build out our cities in that area as opposed to this separate area over here. They're basically two areas separated by this mountain range. So Council of Decius has been founded in Nubia. As you can see, it's my city. The last time I played through this, I had a little bit of a confusion crisis. I wasn't sure where it was founded. So after getting our first bit of experience here for our vampire, I'm tempted to go ahead and promote this unit to allow him to summon specters. So now we can summon specters like that. Specters are pretty powerful already compared to our other units, right? 3 to 4, right? And in addition to that, we can use them for some pretty cool pillaging stuff. So I might try to do some pillaging with the specters later. We'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, I don't have access to any more vampires, so we might have to hold off a little bit from our specter pillaging strats. And there is the frostling wires that I wanted to get rid of. They're already fully fortified, so it's not going to be happening anytime soon. I don't think anyway. And the Council of Decius, I'm not going to adopt it yet because basically we don't need the happiness, and that's about the only benefit adopting the religion would apply. Would apply? Is that really what I wanted to say? Because we are not going to enjoy any diplomatic benefits as we appear to be alone here, alone with 2 enemy civilizations. So not going to have any diplomatic benefits from choosing to adopt, the same religion another civilization has. So I already know what's up in this area. Maybe I shouldn't spoil that too much, but there is a barrow with a wraith or something defending it. So I'm just going to go ahead and uncover it again anyway, because I think it's fair to do so since I already have like foreknowledge of what's going on up there. So I should expend the movement points required to reveal it again, rather than simply benefiting from that previous knowledge that basically is unfairly obtained, I guess you could say. And we're just going to have the longbowmen defend on top of this hill because basically that's the only location that enemies can attack me from. So if you look here, we have 2 little pools, 2 little fresh lakes, and then there is this barbarian encampment. And the thing about the barbarian encampment is while the barbarians themselves are a bit dangerous, they're actually going to defend us against the even more dangerous, what is this civilization called? Sidar. And the Sidar can be a little bit sneaky. Well, I didn't actually mean to end the turn quite that early, but I don't think it's going to be a huge loss. Let's go ahead and build another farm. So I'm just a little bit curious, what research do we have to complete before we can start building mana nodes? Oh, you already have the ability to build death nodes? Okay, let's see if we can get that imp. What's required to actually build this? Elementalism? Oh, I have to research elementalism. Do I have that? Why would I have to research elementalism? Those are just for specific nodes. Okay, well, we're going to try to get closer to it. I thought adepts could build the mines. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, that's where the lions are. Last time I was able to capture the lions. This time that doesn't look to be the case because our hunter here does not have nearly the required experience to subdue animals this time around. So, what do I want to do with my Morai? I don't want them wandering too far afield, because I'm afraid they'll get killed. At the same time, they really aren't doing me a whole lot of good sitting at home, consuming my unit cost maintenance fee. Oh yeah, so here I have the unit now on this tile, and it looks like we can indeed build the death node. So, okay, there's, like, once I have the borders expand for the city one more time, we'll be able to build 2 death nodes. And I'm pretty sure the death nodes is what the specters have the affinity for. Are they specters or wraiths? I always get this wrong. No, they must be specters. They're not wraiths. Yeah, they're specters. They have affinity for death mana. Yeah, so we're going to be building death nodes, get our specters upgraded. Maybe in that sort of way, it would have been better to, invest the extra time required in actually researching the tech that we need to get vampires, feudalism, because that would allow us to make a lot more specters. Like, we have, mana nodes readily available to make our specters very strong. If we got all 3 of these nodes, each specter we summon would be 6 strength. And that's a force to be reckoned with, to be honest. Especially when they're very expendable. So, very cheap, strong units that you can start throwing at your enemies. But at the same time, having a ritualist on hand is also very good. So, those are the 2 directions that you would want to take. I'm not saying one or the other was necessarily better. I'm sure if you really analyzed it closely, you'd probably find it an advantage choosing one over the other, but I'm happy so far with the choices that I've made. So yeah, we're going to be building a death node there. And then getting some stronger... What? Your people have discovered rare edible mushrooms. That's cool. Didn't get that event last time. So what I'm waiting for here is for my vampire to come over. Maybe well, the thing is, the hope with the vampire is I'm going to be summoning a specter in. It's going to attack the frostlings. Hopefully it will die to the frostlings, and then my hunter can claim that additional experience that results from it. There's some fur. I don't want to put too much importance on resources, because the thing is, the resources can easily go away as we become more and more evil and the corruption creeps over our lands. So, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, the frostling is gone? How did that happen? He's bound to be around here somewhere. Let's continue looking. Really? I'm surprised at how... Okay, there. There we go. There's the frostling. And it's on the move. So let's promote up. Try to get my hunter a little bit closer. We might actually be able to kill it with just the hunter if the hunter steps back on this tile. Which it should in the next couple of turns. Or I could go over this way. It's an either or. There's a lion den over here. Do we want to destroy it? Because there's the potential we could farm lions from it. But the thing is, I don't think it will spawn lions on grassland. I could be wrong. But the problem is, lions usually are restricted solely to deserts or something. They actually have the tags for that. Well, there's going to be no harm in us leaving it alone. So that's what I plan on doing. And it looks like we finished our first death node. And actually, now with this resource, we can promote our mages to summon skeletons as well, which I think is pretty significantly better than the other options we have available here. I mean, haste isn't bad, but how many times do you actually need to use it? And then stuff like loyalty and blur, very, situational spells. Same thing with mobility 1 to summoned units. Ooh, that's an interesting synergy there, because we'll continue to get experience. Let's say we did get, we went ahead and got mobility 1, and then we got the ability to summon skeletons, right? Oh, this only allows us to summon skeletons. Okay, yeah, it's number 2 that would allow us to actually summon specters, right? What do we have here? Yeah, you have to have death 2. So that would be quite a bit in the future before we'd be able to do this. But here's the thing that I'm thinking of. We could have, basically, it would allow us to have specters that also had the mobility 1 promotion, giving them even more range, which would allow us to do more pillaging. For those who aren't familiar with how the pillaging works, let's go ahead and do the mobility 1. We're going to try to go down that route. Oof, as a matter of fact, I probably should have just gone and promoted the unit for death 1 and death 2 right away. Okay, well, we can summon a skeleton. Let's try summoning that skeleton just to test it out. And yes, indeed, the skeleton was summoned with the mobility 1 promotion. So now this skeleton would have 2 movement. But I'm going to go ahead and delete it because we don't need the additional unit cost. And we're just going to send this unit back to the city to fortify in there. For those who aren't aware of the Wraith or the Spectre, what is the name of that bloody... I don't get it. Spectre, it is a Spectre. Here's the strategy. Since Spectres die at the end of every turn, it really doesn't hurt you if you send one of them into enemy territory to pillage, and then it gets killed. So you can stand on the edge of enemy borders, send in wraiths to pillage the place while staying safely outside. The wraiths can wreak their havoc because, once again, we are Decius, and Decius has the Raiders promotion, which means our units all get the free Commando promotion, allowing us to use roads. So we can run right in there on the enemy's very own roads, pillage their countryside, and then disappear into the ether the next turn. Or if they kill our specters, no big deal. We still got to pillage their land, and we can summon a new one next turn. So that was a brief spiel on the neat little synergy I kind of discovered. And also discovered 2 wines here. But that was the neat little synergy that I discovered between Decius of the Calabim and his specters. So they work together very well. Let's continue building farms. We probably didn't need that additional bread after all, because our cities, I think this city anyway, will be able to grow very well without it. So how are we looking? Well, 20 minutes in to the new version. It's a little bit unusual. I don't usually go this long. I mean, we're plus 1 hour at this point. Fortunately, those frostlings are dilly-dallying around in here. I don't really know how to capture them. They should be coming out, I would think, sometime or another. I'm going to be building a mine up there next, simply because it's a very productive looking tile. Ooh, we're close. We're probably going to die. We constructed a worker. Yeah. So last time when I was playing this, I think we got to about this point before I realized that I had seriously messed up and forgotten to hit record. And I had decided to build an archery range. The main reason behind the archery range was the fact that we're going to be building vampires over here, and we could actually have access to longbowmen, the technology required for it already. So it's not like we're going to be building archers. We actually have the ability to build longbowmen. I forget where it was. Your bowers. And the great thing about longbowmen is they're very strong in the beginning parts of the game. So what do we have in this city? We have 2 divided souls. The divided souls are relatively strong. I forget. They're the equivalent of hunters, aren't they? They're not assassins, but they are hunters. And my Morai is 4 strength as well. Depends upon what he decides to do with them. He could easily take my Morai out. I could... Ooh, I could summon a Spectre and send it over there. No, I can't. Oh wait, I can. I might as well. It might help. We'll see. And they didn't attack. Okay. We have the Frostlings coming out now. So let's give ourselves haste. I'm going to defend that forest tile. And then back off with my hunter. Let's see here. If we build a mine, it will destroy the mushrooms. If we build a windmill, it will destroy the mushrooms. I wasn't aware that simply having mushrooms on a tile was its own improvement. We would lose 2 food and gain 2 hammers. I mean, it's pretty much an even trade-off, isn't it? Let's ignore that for now and just go over here and improve the dye. Let's build a plantation on top of that dye. Let's go ahead. Oh, you can't summon a Spectre. Okay, the Frostlings are out in the open. Let's see if our hunters can take care of this. 96.2% odds. And pretty successful, it looks like. Let's get out of range of that city. Feel a little bit uncomfortable knowing that I could be attacked. Yeah, so this adept is also getting the required experience to get Spectres via the promotions. And what is the thing? See, it says +5 to spell damage. And the thing about upgrading our adepts for combat is the fact that these promotions will transfer over into units that they summon. So that means that we will have very well upgraded Spectres, I think. And I don't think that's something we can get from vampires. Like, even if we give our vampires additional combat promotions, I don't think those apply to the Spectres. I could be wrong, though. Maybe I just never paid attention. So the big question here is, do we want to go for the same thing with our adept as we did with our imp? They're both in the same magic class, but I just don't see anything more useful, really. And we can always build more adepts. These are not exclusive units. They're not really that special. The only thing is that we'd need a mage's guild to do so. So there would be an additional time investment required before we'd be able to build more of them. But they're a nice alternative, I think, potentially anyway, to vampires before we actually get at vampires and have the ability to summon Spectres. Like, we can summon them with our adepts instead. So that keeps things open. How is our hunter doing? Yeah, we can subdue animals now. Excellent. So we're going to have him heal there 1 turn. And then have him move over here and take out those lions. Or capture those lions, as a matter of fact. Because we will be able to subdue animals now. So let's send the hunter on his way. Should we live a bit dangerously over here again? I can split it up and send a Wraith in to see a little bit more of what this place is like. So far, he doesn't have any improvements there, it looks like. Ooh. How did this happen? So this is the druid. It can't move. But apparently, the barbarians decided to actually move the archers out of there, which I think is a very rare thing. You very rarely see the barbarians moving the archers away from their ruins, basically. So this will give us an interesting opportunity, perhaps, to score some more experience and remove them potentially when they're not in their element, when they're not standing on top of a hill or defending a city or anything like that. So that could be interesting to have to deal with, but I think we're pretty much running up here on our time limit. So in terms of what we have to look forward to, probably after we finish the governor's manor here, I'll be building another settler. And it'll be a little bit interesting because there are not a whole lot of good locations over here, but I would like to fit at least one more city somewhere down here. I think that would be a good thing. And then we also have our borders expanding in 5 turns, and we'll have access to this mana, which means that we'll have the ability to build even stronger specters. Like at the moment, we can't build very strong specters because this death node does not have a road leading to my capital. But that will change in the future, hopefully. It's another thing. My cities here are not connected. Even though there are rivers that run next to them, it would be interesting to see if by building like a road here, and maybe a road here, I'd be able to connect them via trading along rivers and coasts. I'm not sure though. Otherwise, we would have to try to actually route our trade route through this area, which could be a little bit risky, given the fact that he does have a city right here. But other than that, like one of the other things I might want to try to do is get a hunter's lodge built so we can build a hawk and do actually some scouting, but I think we'll save that until we have at least one more city up and going. In terms of this location, I'm not exactly sure where the best place to put a second city would be. We have a lot of land here available to us, and I might actually opt for this area instead because we'd be able to claim another mana node. And as you can see, it would be relatively easy to defend this area. We just have to work on defending these 3 tiles here. So not impossible. Granted, defending these 3 tiles or so would probably be easier, but I think we could do this as well. And it would give us access to a lot more land to expand into, which we desperately need given the fact that we just about run out of gold. So I'm reducing the research down before we call it a day here. I'm reducing the research down to 50%. So we got to be careful about how many units we build. It's one of the big concerns here playing on higher difficulties is maintenance does eat you alive. If we take a look here at the cities, the second city is costing me almost 3 gold in maintenance. And that's even with civics that are kind of friendly towards having distant cities, like minus 40% maintenance costs from distance to palace. Basically, the distance of your secondary cities, your satellite cities, to your capital. And as you can see, the bulk of the maintenance that I'm paying for this city is due to the distance from my capital. So that is something to keep into consideration as well. Like when I talk about building more cities over here, those cities are going to cost significantly more than it would if I built my cities around here. So my second city might actually be in this area for that very reason, because we can't afford, right now anyway, a lot of expenses for distance to my palace. So anyway, I hope that was a decent introduction to it. I know it was a little bit frustrating for me because I probably spent over 2 hours trying to get this up and running. And it's going to be even more than that once I get finished editing and everything else that's involved in producing an episode of this. So hope my efforts don't go entirely unappreciated. But if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.